Hello, welcome to Unit 5 test review on writing linear equations and inequalities. Make sure you have a calculator handy, you have a ruler handy, you're going to need a little bit of graph paper, notebook paper, so you can have all of your materials ready to go. Reminder that this is due the day of our test, so make sure you have all your work complete and you bring it all with you. Alright, first things first, know your formulas. So go ahead and pause the video, write your formulas down, and then unpause and be ready to check. Be mindful that slope is the formula for slope. So slope equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay. Point slope is y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. It's always the best place to start because you almost always have a point and a slope. Slope intercept, y equals mx plus b, where m is your slope and b is your y-intercept. Standard form, ax plus by equals c. And finally, hoi vux. Remember, hoi, that's when we have a horizontal line with a zero slope, and the equation for every horizontal line is y equals some number, y equals a number. Our vux, that's a vertical line, so anytime we have a vertical line, we have an undefined slope, and the equation is always going to be x equals a number. Keep your formulas handy so you can use them throughout your review. It would also be a good idea at the beginning of your test, before you start working, to just write your formulas down to kind of get it out of your head, and you can kind of use that as you go. Alright, first problem here. Write the equation of the line below in both slope-intercept and standard form. Okay. Well, before we start, let's just look at what we have. What information does the graph give us? Well, I see I have a point right here. Let me highlight that so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, we have a point right there at -3, and that point is on our y-axis, so that's our y-intercept. So our y-intercept is -3. And then I need to find a slope. Okay, I need to find my slope. So to find slope, I just need another point, and then I can count between 2 points. So if I just trace my line up until I get to a nice point of intersection, there's a good one right there, so I can use that point. And then I just need to count rise over run. I can either use those 2 points and find the slope mathematically, or I can just count and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3. So rise over run. I went up 5 and over 3. So for slope intercept, y equals mx plus b. My slope is 5/3. My y-intercept is 3. So there's slope intercept. Now to get to standard form, I can just manipulate what I have right here. Now remember, standard form is going to be our ax plus by equals c. So the first thing I need to do is move x on over, so minus 5/3 x, minus 5/3 x. So I have negative 5/3 x plus y equals -3. Remember, with standard form, you can't have a negative and you can't have a fraction for your a value. So I need to multiply everything here by -3, because the negative times the negative will give me a positive, and by multiplying by 3, I'll clear out that denominator. So that'll give me a positive 5x minus 3y equals positive 9. Another graph picture. Write the equation of the line below in both slope, intercept, and standard form. Again, I see on my graph I have my y-intercept. That's going to be 4. My slope, I see I have another point right here where it's crossing, so I can say I'm going down 1. That's going to be -1 because I'm going down, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. So my slope is -1/4. If I start with slope-intercept form, me y equals negative 1/4 x plus 4. There's my slope-intercept. And to get to standard, again, I'm just going to manipulate what I have here. So I'll start by moving my x over, by adding 1/4 x to both sides. So now I have 1/4 x plus y equals 4. And now I have to get rid of my fraction. It's already positive, so I don't have to worry about that. So I can just multiply everything by 4. 4 times 1/4, that's just going to be 1x plus 4y equals 16. Again, if I'm going too fast, please stop and go back. Please stop and pause. Don't feel like you have to rush to keep up with me. All right. This is a graphing and writing problem here. So it says graph and write the equation of the line below, both in slope, intercept, and standard form. All right. So the first thing I need to do is find my slope. I have 2 points. So to find my slope, remember y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1 is going to be 0 minus 4, 3 plus 1, because that's minus a negative. That's negative 4 over 4, and that simplifies to negative 1. So my slope here is negative 1. If I look at this point right here, 3, 0, that would be here. And if I look at my other point, negative 1, 4, negative 1, 4, that's going to be there. Okay? And I can kind of verify. I can say down 1, down 1, down 1, down 1, and I see that I end up with a nice line with a slope of negative 1. Now from here I can do a couple things. Since I just graphed it, I can say, well, there's my y-intercept, so my y-intercept here is 3, and I can just jump straight to slope-intercept form, right? I can just say y equals negative x plus 3. If I didn't think to do that, I could take either of my points here and my slope and plug that into point slope and still simplify to here. And from here, I can easily get to standard form. This is my slope-intercept because I have slope and intercept here. So if I take that and manipulate that for standard form, I just need to add x to both sides. So I get x plus y equals 3. And that would be standard, and that would be slope-intercept. All right, next one. Again, formula for slope, y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. It doesn't matter which point I call 1 or 2. Last time I said that was 2 and that was 1, but just so you can see it both ways, I'll start this way this time. So 4 minus 1, 4 minus 1, and then 2 minus a negative 4 is plus 4. It's going to be 3/6, so my slope here is 1/2. All right. Now to get my equation, I have a point and I have a slope, so I can start with point slope. Remember, there's always more than one way to go about things. On the last one we graphed it and found the y-intercept. This one I'm going to do it the other way first. I'm going to go point slope first here. So I'm going to take, you can just use this point right here. That'll be fine. So y minus 1 equals 1/2 x plus 4. And from there I can simplify it. Okay, so I'm going to distribute. So y minus 1 equals 1/2 x plus 2. If I add 1 to both sides, I'm going to get y equals 1/2 x plus 3. That would be my slope-intercept form. From there, I can subtract 1/2 from both sides. I have negative 1/2 x plus y equals 3. I have a negative and I have a denominator of 2. So I'm going to multiply by a negative 2. It's going to give me a positive x minus 2y equals negative 6. And that's my standard form. to graph, I can just plot my 2 points. I can say negative 4, 1 is here, and 2, positive 4 is here. My slope is 1/2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and that works out perfectly. It's a positive slope. My y-intercept should be 3, and I see right away that it is indeed going through 3 again, so that's good. All right, so there's lots of ways to cross-check yourself, right? You can say, well, I got this equation, so my intercept should be 3, even though I didn't do that first. I can go back and check that my line is going in the right spot there. All right? All right, write the equation of the line below and identify the slope. All right, so anytime we see a horizontal or vertical line, we want to make sure that we're thinking about hoi vux. Okay? This is a horizontal line. Okay? Horizontal line. Which means I have a 0 slope. So here the slope is 0. And my equation is going to be y equals some number. Y equals some number. Well, the number is going to be negative 4 because that's where the line is passing through. Y equals negative 4. Likewise with the vertical line, again, you should always think hoi vux, but in my mind I'm thinking, well, that's a vertical line. So when I think vertical line, I know that's an undefined slope. So here my slope is undefined. And my equation for every vertical line is x equals a number. So it's going to be x equals some number. Well, that number is 3. It's passing through 3. X equals 3. Everywhere along that line, the value of x is 3. All right, write the equation in point slope form. So this is going without a graph. Okay, remember point slope form is y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay, this is your x sub 1, this is your y sub 1. So y minus a negative 4 is plus 4. My slope is negative 4, x minus 9. That's point slope form. The hardest part, remember, about point slope form, when it tells you to stop, is to stop. Not to distribute, not to simplify. Write the equation in slope-intercept form. Well, it says I pass through the origin. Well, that's going to be 0, 0. And here, m is negative 1/3. Okay? So there's a couple things you can think about here. You can think about direct variation because it's going through the origin, and that would make your life easy. But if you're a little bit stuck, you can always go back to point slope form. I have a point and I have a slope. Okay, so it's going to be y minus 0 equals negative 1/3 x minus 0. Okay, and if I simplify that, because I need it in slope intercept, that means I want it in y equals, which is going to be negative 1/3 x. All right, and again, that looks like a direct variation, y equals kx, right? Because I know it's going through the origin, I could have read that and thought this in my mind, or I can just work my way down to it. Okay, remember when you have y equals mx plus b and the y-intercept is 0, you're just going to leave it right there. Here we're starting out in slope-intercept form, and it says to rewrite the equation in standard form. That means I just need to add 2/3 x to both sides, add 2/3 x, so I get 2/3 x plus y equals 6. You cannot have a fraction, so I need to multiply everything by 3 to clear that fraction. It gives me 2x plus 3y equals 18. ax plus by equals your c. Rewrite the equation in slope-intercept form. So here we're starting in standard, and we want to get to slope-intercept. Remember, y equals mx plus b. So essentially, we're just going to resolve this for y. So I just need to take 8x away from both sides. That gives me negative 2y equals negative 8x plus 16. Divide both sides by negative 2. Negative 8 over negative 2 is positive 4. 16 over negative 2 is minus 8. Y equals mx plus b. Slope-intercept. It's always good when you finish to double check and make sure you have it in the right form. All right, writing an inequality. Now, every time we write our inequalities, we're going to think about them in terms of slope-intercept because that's the easiest information to get. So think in your mind that you're looking for the pieces for y equals mx plus b. Even though we're writing an inequality, that means I need to get a slope and I need to get a y-intercept so I can write my inequality here. So I can start with my y-intercept, and I see that y-intercept here is 2. And my slope is down 1 over 1, down 1 over 1, so it's negative 1. Okay? So if I have y, I have a slope of negative 1, y-intercept of 2. Now I just need to choose my inequality sign. I see I have a dashed line, so that means I'm not going to be equal to. I'm shading below the line, so that means it's going to be less than. The best way to do that is, to go back and check, you can pick 0, 0. Because 0, 0 is in your shaded region, it should be true. So if I were to plug in 0, 0, that means y is 0, x is 0, 0 is less than 2. That is true, and it should be because it's in the shaded portion. Okay, it's a great way to go back and double check that you chose the correct sign. Again, I'm going to need a slope and a y-intercept. I see that my y-intercept is 4. I see that my slope, here's a good point to go to, down 1, that's down 1, negative 1, and back 2, okay? That's actually 1/2, and if I look at that, I see that is a positive slope there, all right? So I have my y, 1/2 x plus 4. Now I need to choose a sign. I see it's a solid line, so it's going to include equals to. I'm shading above the graph, so it's going to be greater than. Again, to test, if I use 0, 0 to plug in, this time it should come up false because it's not in the shaded portion. So if I say 0 is greater than or equal to 0 plus 4, well, 0 is not greater than or equal to 4. That is false. And the good thing about that is I wanted it to be because it's not in the solution set. Remember, the shaded region is your solution set. All right, last but not least, we have line of best fit. All right, so here I see I have a table of values, and it says to first draw a scatter plot and determine what relationship, if any. So just real quick sketch here. Here's my average. Okay, that's my x. This is my y. Okay. 12, that's about halfway there, and we're just going to do a rough estimate. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. And then 25 and 50, 15 and 40, 8 and 20, 35 and 70, 40 and 77, 41 and 61, just go about there, and then 20 and 54. Okay. So right away, when I look at that, I can see that it's going to have a positive correlation there, right? Because it's all kind of going uphill. And if I were to draw a line of best fit, just kind of like a sketch, right, just draw a trend line through there, I can see that that's moving in the positive direction. So there is a positive correlation here. Now, to get line of best fit, we have to use our graphing calculators. Okay. Remember, we're going to go to Stat, Edit, and first you need to clear, if there's any information in your list, you need to clear your list, and then enter in your x and y values from your table. And then arrow over. Right, and always double check your values, make sure they match your table before you move on. Go back to stat, go to your calc menu, down to number 4, which is your line, okay, ax plus b, push enter, and again we get our a value and our b value. So it says to write the slope-intercept form of the equation. So that means we'll have y equals 1.22x plus 22.45. Right. Always round to your hundredths place there. Then it says to predict the maximum longevity for an animal with an average longevity of 33 years. Well, if I look at my table, okay, if its average is 33, that would go here, which means I'm given, that's a y right there. I'm given an x value, which means I want to find the y value. So since I know the x value, I can plug it in for my x, and I can solve it for y. So just using my calculator, I get that y is 62.71, okay? So that would be 62.71 years. Years is the unit that we're dealing with here. All right? So again, make sure you always know what information you're being given. If you're given y, you plug in y. If you're given x, you plug in x. All right? All right, so that about does it. I know that was fast, so if you need to rewind, please go back and rewind. Otherwise, make sure you get your homework done, and we'll be ready for our test next class. Happy studying.